Hello, Moto.
And on a day when the Indian Air Force Chief has put out the numbers of Pakistani aircraft destroyed by his surface-to-air weapon systems as well as missiles during Operation Sindoor, he's put that number at 6 aircraft knocked out from the air and an unspecified number knocked down from the ground. The first specific information put out by the Air Chief so far. I'm joined live from the United States tonight by John Spencer. He's one of the most well-known warfare experts, commentators and research scholars. John, always good to see you. After so much fog, after a lot of speculation, wasn't it good to see the Indian Air Force Chief actually talk numbers?
Good to see you again, Shiv. Yeah, absolutely amazing updates to my research. On top of all the information that the Indian military already put out on the actual physical sites that were hit, bringing the evidence, which I think is critical to the claims by Pakistan, and these developments will be significant in my research, especially. And I'm a little bit jealous here, Shiv, about the historic long-range surface-to-air engagement by the S-400, because that would beat the 1991 U.S. military over 200-kilometer engagement during that war. So I want to see some more details, but that's pretty amazing. But also, I really appreciated the comments about, which is really important, the political control of the military's freedom to operate during the Operation Sindoor, which I viewed by every comment that the Prime Minister or the Minister of External Affairs, that symbiotic relationship during the operation, but also political of the objectives that the political establishment sets. This is some significant news for sure, and I understand why you're covering it so hard.
You're right. There is no bigger story than this today. I happen to be in Bengaluru today, the city where the Air Chief actually made these comments. We didn't know it was going to land, because these memorial lectures are usually a pretty sober academic kind of affair, and boom comes the Air Chief, with the equivalent of a half-hour rain of BrahMos missiles in terms of information, because Operation Sindoor has had so much fog. You've seen some of it as well, John, so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you're right. The specifics is what makes the Air Chief's speech so important, so credible. This is an Air Chief, like I've been saying all day, who has routinely sort of disturbed the status quo. He's a man who kind of speaks his mind. He's rubbed the establishment, believe me, the wrong way many times in the past as well. So he's nobody's man. He is the Air Force Chief, and when he says it, one usually takes it at face value. But let's unpack these things one at a time, John. 5 Pakistan Air Force fighters, and 1 large aircraft, to use the Air Chief's words, taken down by air defense action from the ground. He did mention the S-400 as well. I'll come to that record-breaking interception in a moment. But your words on, 6 aircraft knocked out in the air.
Yeah, it would be significant. And again, this has been the difference that India brings the receipts, with satellite imagery, with the details. It would be significant. And this is why I've been studying Operation Sindoor so much, is that the details of both the military and political significance of the achievements, not just in defending Indian territory, but the ability to do this, to do these air engagements, because this was the biggest air-to-air engagement in modern history beyond visual range, and to be able to have these successes, each one of them studied in details. Also in the narrative war, though, this is significant because of the way that the media, mostly Western media, ran with this story of, there's proof of 1 aircraft being knocked down, and just inferences and fantasy about why and how many, and taking every statement with validity. Yes, those air-to-air or surface-to-air engagements, hoping we get a lot more details, are significant in the not that it was needed. I mean, the dominance of the Indian military during Operation Sindoor is objectively conclusive by not just defense, but offense.
Very true. Talking about this sort of record-breaking surface-to-air missile engagement, in which an S-400 missile has been, categorically stated by the Air Chief, John, to have gone and hit a large aircraft, very possibly an airborne early warning and control aircraft of the Pakistan Air Force, is something else. Because, no military goes into a conflict trying to break any record. This obviously has just happened, by way of operations. And like you said, the last record was somewhere in the early 90s. It was a record that belonged to the to the U.S. Air Force. But this is wild at many different levels. This is a very serious business. But a 300+ kilometer range interception of a heavily guarded air asset is a very big deal, isn't it, John?
Very big deal. And like you said, the last one recorded around 200 kilometers. So I think India should capitalize on that. That's a significant military achievement if it is, which I like you said, haven't seen there not to be any credibility of statements by the marshal or anybody else, but it will be significant to be recorded and then studied as well, because this is that transformation that I talked about with Indian military technologies. Although the S-400 is a Russian system, nothing works in of itself. All the aerial platforms, as you just talked about, an AWACS system to be able to hit things like that, but also to have that visibility, electronic, all these bits and pieces that would make this historic long-range engagement possible need to be studied.
Going from what happened in the air, which we're hearing for the first time from the air chief, and it's, right, it's incredible because he's put numbers to it. So far we were talking about conjecture, was it 3, was it 4? Here he literally says 6 aircraft, 5 fighters, 1 large aircraft were knocked out in the air. And he says, he used the word F-16s. He used the word, it was in the plural when he was talking about aircraft that were destroyed on the ground. And he also referred to 1 other large aircraft, possibly electronic intelligence jet or a early warning aircraft also destroyed on the ground, which means that there was damage on the ground, which is something that, we were reasonably sure had happened considering the satellite images of the airstrikes on various bases. He did refer to damage on the ground. What did you make of that? So it looks like we have a clear confirmation from the Air Force chief himself that Pakistani fighters and aircraft were destroyed both in the air as well as on the ground. So something that was in the realm of speculation so far is confirmed now from the air chief.
Absolutely. And validated by previous statement, but without that clarity. The previous observations, as you have shown on TV, the satellite imagery, this is what it looked like before. This is what it looked like after. Clearly, there are things on that tarmac or in that bunker or whatever. So it adds to further validity in the statements that India's military has made about what their achievements were during Operation Sindoor. Very important.
John, from a warfare perspective, from an operations perspective, these are two, professional air forces. There is one layer of the entire narrative and the atmosphere between the two countries, which is jingoistic and emotional. But when we separate all of that aside and focus on the operational aspects of it, there is a sense of, how could the Pakistan Air Force have been overwhelmed so completely, right? How is it that in 4 days they were brought to the ceasefire table? How is it that they were unable to cause any damage in any kind of counter actions? What is your understanding of it? And in what way would you say that the Indian Air Force chief's words today and the information he has put out adds to your understanding of that?
Absolutely. So so far my research isn't, I mean, there is some technology differences and that is important. Again, that's studying that military transformation that India did, and the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the performance, the measurable effectiveness, and you can count systems. But I also understand that it is the synchronization of all the systems and the technologies. So you can have an advanced system, on both sides do have very advanced systems, but it's how you synchronize them as a joint force, right? So this has been all the DGMO and others talking together. Like none of this without the ground system, the air system, even the naval capabilities working together. And on the Pakistani side, same thing. It seems like there wasn't that integration in war is a test of everything. So there's a lot of lessons learned on that side. Of course, India learned a lot of lessons, and people think that you can have perfection, but just from objective analysis, overwhelmingly militarily, but more importantly, strategically and politically, the achievements during Operation Sindoor, the change in strategic doctrine, the military domination, both offensive and defensive. I don't think you can discount that. India was able to not have this happen on Indian soil.
Yeah.
Those measurements, these statements, these very hard numbers are all a factor into, well, how could that happen? How could you not stop some of the Indian strikes on physical locations and then now we know in air platforms? Some of it's because they're not that joint synchronization that is very vital in warfare.
The S-400 is being spoken about quite a bit. And, after what the air chief said today, I'm no longer surprised that Pakistan was attempting to put a spotlight on claims that it had destroyed S-400 units in Adampur and elsewhere. Those were completely disproven and debunked with real life information, of course. But as a student of warfare, I think I understand the need to have tried to play down the effects, perhaps, of the S-400. But to a specific question to you, John, the S-400 is one of India's newest acquisitions from Russia. It is a polarizing weapon because of its implications. Between Russia and the United States, but it is not some mystery weapon, is it? It's a weapon that was openly procured by India. It's a weapon that few know is in service with the Chinese as well, and therefore it is reasonable to accept that the Pakistan's military planners, its air force, its battle space management system persons would have all known about the S-400, where it is deployed in India, how it's going to be used, what its capabilities are, what those ranges are. Why do you think the S-400 would have been so effective, despite the Pakistan military knowing full well what the S-400 can do? I'm sure the Chinese must have shared some information as well.
Sure, it's a great question. This is where you really have to look through that fog of warfare, just like when they say they struck Indian aircraft. It can be many things. It can be human error, and it can be technological errors, like the things you bought from China didn't do the things that they said they would, whether that's radar systems or interdiction systems and the layered air defense integration that you need. So it could be a many systems. And I actually remember recently when even the Minister of Defense for India said that, yes, we have the S-400 Russian systems, but we're also working towards that full, self-reliant India having a comparable, capable system and actually winging yourselves, India, off of that system. But the reasons why it was so dominant, it could be a list of reasons. But again, I try to be as objective as possible on what was hit, what you said you hit. Okay, let me see some photos, let me see some satellite imagery. And you're right, they should have known about it. But there are a lot of surprises in Operation Sindoor that go beyond kind of the normal, surprises in the clash of two advanced militaries.
I know you don't like getting into the politics of things, John, but I'd love to draw you into one tantalizing nugget that I'm very tempted to ask you a question on, which is that that India and the United States via Trump are in the middle of this narrative battle over tariffs. Trump, who is a character all unto his own, has upbraided India very publicly over its importing of Russian systems. It has blamed India, for being responsible for funding the Putin war machine and being responsible for the Russia-Ukraine war. And here you have the S-400 suddenly become front and center, in this speech by the Indian Air Force chief. There are all these geopolitical chess pieces moving on the board. But it is an interesting thing, I assume, even for you, to look at how a Russian system has been mentioned by the Air Force chief at a time when India's purchase of Russian equipment has become a bone of contention with the United States.
You're right. I don't do the politics because it's very contentious. As I have been watching NDTV, know about how contentious it is, and I understand absolutely. The S-400 has been proven in other locations as well as where the S-300 has not. I look towards the military capabilities and the The relationships are strong. You go through these turmoils, of course, and I stay out of that. I do military analysis. It is an interesting factor. I would love to put a bromos on the entire conversation, and focus on the advancements that India is doing in artificial intelligence and data and all of this made in India that will help the world, and especially its partners.
No, it's interesting that you say that, because just today we broke the news earlier today that India's defense production has hit an all-time high. There's been a big bump, especially after Operation Sindoor as well. So that is one statistic that seems to reflect the fact that India is increasingly looking at self-reliance, even though, the irony is missed on no one that we're talking about imported weapons as well, because India continues to have that dubious distinction of being a very, very large importer of weapons from different countries, including the United States. Last couple of questions, John. The F-16 was mentioned specifically by the Air Force chief as well in his speech. So we can reasonably assume that, at least one or two F-16s were either knocked out in the air or were destroyed on the ground. That is an aspect that becomes part of the conversation as well. It did in 2019, when the Indian Air Force had claimed that it had knocked out an F-16 in the air. This time as well, the Air Force chief is talking about it. Most people are aware that there was a kind of aircraft airframe count that was put out into the public domain in 2019. This time, there are voices now saying, oh, that hasn't come out from the United States yet. So is that a bit of a confirmation? What do you think?
This is the problem with my research is, there is this, still hit, 3/4 of what you know in war is covered in this fog. Whether there's a system that's hit on the ground, which I think is more likely. I'm interested to know more and the significance of it. I mean, I won't pull it to that geopolitical, these military exchanges, of arms and things like that are normal. Yes, they come with political significance, but they're also normal. So I'm not going to give a lot of gravitas to it. Again, it's part of the conclusive kind of assessment of what was struck and what was not. It's likely on the ground systems because of some of the restrictions of flying American-made systems against whomever. There's that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Riding that fine line to stay away from the political.
I hear you loud and clear, and I think the entire narrative battle about who lost more aircraft or what aircraft and in what circumstances sort of dominated the conversation, when it should have been, like you rightly said, and I completely agree with you, the conclusiveness with which the Indian Air Force really brought the entire conflict to an end is what needs our attention much more. The Indian Air Force chief, apart from putting those numbers out, which are, to a public that has been sort of fed on a political conversation that is focused on how many aircraft went down, it obviously stands out. But last question then, which is something you referred to in the beginning, John, which is on this entire idea that the Indian Air Force's hands were tied, they were not given the operational freedom to do what they wanted. It looks like the Indian Air Force chief completely debunked that and settled that debate for one. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, you can get a better source of information to debunk that information than the person in charge of during the operation. And
yeah,
I mean, really gets towards that narrative war, though. I know that was an internal, and I love seeing the vibrant debate in a vibrant democracy, in the parliament of the opposition and everything. That's necessary. You mentioned the narrative war, which is very significant, and you can't discount when there's a global story that is just full of lies and misinformation. You have to fight those. He did put that to bed very conclusively and validates what my research already was, that this is actually a historic example of alignment between the political and the military. Military doing their assigned mission with all the rights of self-defense and self-operation, but also achieving the political goals. But definitely put it to bed, Shiv.
I keep saying final question, but then you say something which triggers another final question. So maybe two more questions, John, which is, after your visit to India, after you've heard what the Indian Air Force chief has said today, give us a sense of what your research is looking like. on Operation Sindoor. An overview of how today may have changed things or shaped things as far as your research is concerned, because I can imagine how difficult it is. This is a shape-shifting story. There is still a measure of fog. You're a scholar making sense of it while all of these, pieces are moving and changing. What's it looking like today?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. It's really hard to do, but I think that the work is very important, and I do it around the world.
Yeah.
Is to record what happened. I mean, I think, and we were just on not too long ago about the breaking, getting the terrorist in that operation,
Yeah.
but we almost moved so fast in our information spaces that we moved past, and I'm just trying to record what happened and then add the analysis that I have done as fast as I can, but actually going to India, learning more about from the military, and I learned more even about the opening strikes, how much it was land-based systems against the 9 terrorist sites and not Air Force, in all of these bits and pieces. So right now it looks like still working on recording what happened in each major moment of the operation, adding the analysis, because I think that's the so what. So what in India's military transformations? So what in the strategic the entire East Asia change of the strategic doctrine. So I'm trying to do both and record what happened. And these notifications kind of like, okay, I got to go back and rewrite that section a little bit, because you do want credible sources. You want first person sources as well. Like you said, like if that's the chief saying, of the Air Force saying that that's not true, then I'm going to count that as credible in part of the research. But that last bit of analysis, and of course we have all kinds of news going around the world, and it's really hard as a researcher to breaking news. They say that there are years where history happens, and then sometimes there's days where years of history happen. And I think we're in those moments, especially during Operation Sindoor.
Yeah, very well said. Did you, by the way, get a chance to meet with the chief of the air staff when you were here, John?
I did not, so I got to meet the DGMO. I had some good engagements and both political and military, but he was a little busy that time, which I fully understand. I have to come back. I got to come back.
Yeah. You've got to come back. I mean, with the air chief putting out this information, I think your next visit to India is definitely indicated. But wish you the best. Thank you very much, John. It's always good to speak to you, and it's a learning experience, because your research is also in motion right now. So it's great to see someone actually tracking a difficult moving target and trying to pin down these facts. And I can imagine how today was very valuable for you, because after all these weeks, we've got some numbers, we've got some receipts from no less than the chief of the air staff. And this is going to move the story forward. So I thank you for adding some insight to it, and we will continue to report the story. Thanks very much, John Spencer, for being with us on NDTV.
Thank you.
Thanks.
तू ही तो है जिसकी सच्चाई वाली क्लैरिटी की वजह से मैं आज यहाँ हूँ।
गोल्ड प्लस सिल्वॉक्सी मिरर्स, ऐसी क्लैरिटी कि आपको सिर्फ सच नजर आए, चाहे कितने भी साल बीत जाएं।
The markets move fast,
and so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell, or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide, and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
जय जवान। जय जवान।
Hello, Moto.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I am Osama Shab. In fact, tonight on this show, a stunning disclosure from the top. Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh, he has pulled back the curtain on Operation Sindoor. He says that the Indian Air Force brought down not one, not two, but 6 Pakistani military aircrafts, 5 fighter jets, and even an airborne warning plane with a single missile strike, reaching almost 300 kilometers away. The weapon, the fearsome S-400 system, which Mr. Singh calls a game changer that kept Pakistan's Air Force grounded. Meanwhile, in a sharp rebuke, he has also brushed off the former US President Donald Trump's self-proclaimed role as a peacemaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just military history. It's a revelation that is now shaking the geopolitical chessboard tonight.
SAGW systems, mostly from, I'm talking about fighter aircraft are from S-400. We have at least 5 fighters confirmed killed and 1 large aircraft, which could be either an Elint aircraft or an AWNC aircraft, which was taken out at a distance of about 300 kilometers. This is the actually largest ever recorded surface-to-air kill that we can talk about. And apart from, of course, there are a large number of UAVs, drones. There are some of their missiles which have fallen in our territory. We have recovered a lot of wreckage from this, which now is being studied so that we can make out what did they do, where were they launched from, what route did they follow, what kind of system do they have, whether they have, what generation those systems belong to, what all features do they have. So that study is going on, and it is going on even in coordination with DRDO.
There was very clear political will, very clear directions which were given to us, and there were no kind of restrictions which were put on it. There have been talks about, was there any restriction, were you kept constrained? If there were any constraints, they were self-made. We, the forces, decided what will be our rules of engagement. We, the forces, decided what will be the escalation ladder that we want to ride on. We decided how we want to control the escalation. So I want to make it very clear, there were no, I repeat, no restrictions on us. Full freedom was given to us to plan and execute. I must say that, that our attacks have been calibrated because we wanted to be mature about it. A little bit on that I'll come to later. There was synchronization between forces. All 4 of us, CDS, the 3 chiefs. I must say here that the post of CDS has made a difference there. He was there always to get us together, discuss things out, iron things out. NSA played a very, very big role, in getting all the other agencies and forces together. I can say that it was, more of a high-tech war which was fought. In about 88, 90 hours of war, we were able to achieve, so much of damage to the system that it was very clear in their mind that in this current situation, if they continue, they are going to continue paying for it more and more. So they have come forward and sent a message again through DGMO कि हम बात करना चाहते हैं, and which was accepted from our side.
All right. Joining us on the broadcast is Major General SVP Singh, the former Additional Director General, Artillery, Strategic Affairs and Defense Expert. He's also a war veteran of the 1971 Indo-Pak War. Sir, welcome to NDTV. The first thing that I want to understand from you, and I want to get a sense on the capability and the deterrence factor that we came across, and especially what was highlighted by the Air Chief Marshal. After this particular display, isn't it fair to say that India now commands the skies, and all the adversaries, they should think twice before even approaching our borders?
Well, you have said it, Osama. Definitely, the Indian Air Force has commanded the skies during the 88 hours of the conflict which took place. And it was a master stroke of command planning by the military commanders, as the Air Chief has mentioned, all four of them. The synergy was all there to see. And I think I would like to go back, the two meetings which came up on the media, and you all were showing, which the Prime Minister presided over when all the four chiefs, the Defense Minister and the NSA were present, showed the synergy which was there and a message to the world that our chiefs are together with not only the government but with the nation. And here is where the Air Force then played its role. Look, in 22 minutes or 23 minutes, 9 targets ranging from POK down to Bahawalpur, the heart of Punjab, Pakistan, had faced the might of the Indian Air Force in 22 minutes. Now, such precision and timing and, the target matching which took place along with the weapon system is commendable. I think it will be a study. India has emerged in non-contact warfare beyond visual range. How to engage targets, how to determine and project its power is there for other countries to study. 2 nuclear countries. You see, there have been only 2 nuclear countries which have gone to war against each other. One, I will trace it back to 1969 with the Soviet Union and China, which was along the Mississippi River. But the second and third one have been the Kargil and now this Sindoor. So India has also given a great message how to manage the nuclear deterrence and how to subjugate the nuclear blackmailing, particularly of Pakistan. That also has come out very loud and clear. And look at the targeting, what the Air Force did on 9th and 10th May. 11 air bases, military air bases, targeted, selected, and then delivered the TNT, delivered the might of the Indian Air Force, whereby the DGMO, Pakistan DGMO came requesting. Which was done to the airfields was also tremendous. Look, the aircrafts, the hangars, the radars, the AWACS, they were all targeted. It shows the capability of the military planners, in this case the Air Force, and also the targeting capability of precision might, because we targeted them bang on. And Chaklala, the Noor Khan Air Base, near to Islamabad, near to the Karana Hills, delivered a message of its kind, higher than a strategic deterrent, I would like to say that.
What is also quite interesting is the political and the global context of what has come out, sir. The Air Chief Marshal, he has dismissed Mr. Donald Trump's peace claims. And by dismissing those claims, is the Air Chief Marshal making it clear that, look, India's security, it is safeguarded by India and not foreign mediators?
Absolutely. See, India, I would say, since independence, has shown earlier non-alignment to stand on its own feet, though it was an underdeveloped country that time. And now a developing power, projecting power, what has come out is that we are there to stand on our own. We will exercise strategic autonomy with a force. We may even punch above our power which we have, but we will project our power. And here it is, we had no interference. What one can accept in diplomacy and statecraft is that there are nations who are playing up to say, okay, war should be stopped, war should be controlled. It has been done in every war. Russian-Ukraine war, it's been done, not achieved results. Israel, Gaza, it has been done, not achieved the results. So if the powers are playing that role, it is a statesman-like role. I can grant it to the other countries. But within that, someone dictating to India that ceasefire was imposed by them, well, it was not so. And it will not be also in the future. Yes, their vice president speaking to our prime minister, their secretary of state indulging, is one factor of statesmanship of the nations, both nations. Herein, I would say Saudi Arabia also came in the media news, and so did the UAE. So maybe the Americans played their part a little more in the background, which is a welcome step. But India was not dictated. You see, look, what we did, our military actions crossed the previous thresholds. And in the terms of geographical reach, in terms of system employment, and in the terms of results produced, you know, it was a tremendous show, and it was a show to the world. Now, the political direction, the air chief, or the convergence of political directions, the government and the military commanders was again an absolute bull's-eye performance, which the air chief has brought it out very clearly.
In fact, you know, by revealing this success today, the Air Chief Marshal, he has also sent out a deliberate message of strength to not just Pakistan, but also to our other neighbors as well, including China. And could this disclosure be a morale booster for all our, for the armed forces, for every single Indian? We can very certainly say yes. Major General SVP Singh, thank you very much, sir, for speaking with NDTV.
Thank you, Osama.
Meanwhile, the fight in the skies, it may have paused, but the real battle, it has now landed squarely in the political arena. With one statement, the Indian Air Force Chief, he has detonated a truth bomb that's rattled the opposition's strongest talking points. For weeks, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, as well as the Congress, they claimed that India lacked the political will during Operation Sindoor, that our armed forces, they fought with one hand tied behind their back. This is what Mr. Rahul Gandhi had said in the parliament as well. But the Air Chief Marshal, Amarpreet Singh, he says otherwise. And now, this political fallout is unavoidable. The parliament will turn into a combat zone where the stakes are no longer about aircraft and airspace, but about credibility. And the question is, who's been telling the country the truth and who's been playing politics with it? We'll try and get a sense of that. But listen in to what Rahul Gandhi had earlier said.
Meaning you went into Pakistan, you attacked Pakistan, and you told our pilots, do not attack their air defense system. Meaning you told our pilots, go and attack and face the air defense system of Pakistan. Meaning you tied their hands behind their back. Because he has the blood of the people of Pahalgam on his hands, the goal of the exercise was to make sure that he used the Air Force to protect his image. The forces should be used with freedom. If you want them to be used, you want to unleash a tiger, free him. Do not tie his hands behind his back. Do not go to the Pakistanis and say, listen, don't escalate. Then go all the way. Then fight properly and defeat them once and for all.
Our objective was very clear. Our objective was to teach the terrorists a lesson that they will think twice before doing something, or they know what kind of price they can pay. And once we have achieved those objectives, we should look for all windows of opportunity to stop that. rather than just continuing. We were actually on a song that night. I hear from so many people. I don't want to say that, but some people very close to me have said, "Aur marna tha." I'm telling you that. But can we continue to be at war? No. Why should we be at war when we can avoid it or we can stop it? Now we have to make sure that we remain steadfast, that should we need to again do something, we are not found wanting. But what to do, that call will be taken at much higher level.
पहले 100% पॉलिटिकल विल होनी चाहिए और दूसरा, अगर आप सेना का प्रयोग करना चाहते हो तो आपको फुल फ्रीडम ऑफ ऑपरेशन देना पड़ेगा। जनरल मानेकशॉ ने इंदिरा गांधी जी से कहा कि मैं ऑपरेशन गर्मी में नहीं कर सकता हूं, नहीं करूंगा, मुझे 6 महीने चाहिए। इंदिरा गांधी जी ने उन्हें कहा आपको 6 महीने चाहिए, 1 साल चाहिए, जितना भी आपको समय चाहिए आप लीजिए, क्योंकि आपको फ्रीडम होनी चाहिए, फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्शन आपको होना चाहिए।
But there was political will. I'm being very, very candid here, very open here, because I hear various versions of it. I think if I tell you something, people will have to believe, because I was there listening to everybody, attending every meeting. There was very clear political will, very clear directions which were given to us, and there were no kind of restrictions which were put on it. If there were any constraints, they were self-made. We, the forces, decided what will be our rules of engagement. We, the forces, decided what will be the escalation ladder that we want to ride on. We decided how we want to control the escalation. So I want to make it very clear, there were no, I repeat, no restrictions on us. Full freedom was given to us to plan and execute.
What the Indian Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal AP Singh has done over 2.5 months after Operation Sindoor is provide the first on-record specifics of how many Pakistan Air Force aircraft were actually destroyed by the Indian Air Force. Now, we already know that several Pakistan Air Force bases were struck by air-to-surface missiles like the BrahMos and the Scalp. But what was left in the open, at least so far, was how many Pakistan Air Force aircraft were destroyed. Now he says 5 fighters and 1 possible early warning aircraft were destroyed in the air. They were shot down by Indian Air Force surface-to-air missiles. 5 fighters of, we don't know which types, but presumably this could include J-10s, F-16s, aircraft of that kind, which are in the Pakistan Air Force inventory. But more importantly, the airborne early warning aircraft or signal intelligence aircraft that has been destroyed, the Indian Air Force Chief has categorically said that this interception had happened at a range of about 300 kilometers courtesy an S-400 missile, making it a global warfare record when it comes to a surface-to-air missile intercept of an aircraft. So what the Indian Air Force Chief has said is that the Indian Air Force has set a warfare benchmark as far as a surface-to-air interception is concerned. No other country in any other conflict has been able to shoot down an aircraft at a 300+ kilometer range. Other than that, what the Indian Air Force Chief has done is also put some numbers on aircraft destroyed on the ground during the airstrikes. So 6 aircraft destroyed in the air, that is shot down, and at least 2 aircraft destroyed on the ground, because he talks about fighters like the F-16 and possibly some special aircraft were destroyed inside the hangars. NDTV has had satellite imagery that confirms this. So we can say arithmetically the Indian Air Force Chief has confirmed today categorically and on the record that at least 8 aircraft, with 6 confirmed to have been killed in the air, have been destroyed by the Indian Air Force during Operation Sindoor. The second aspect of what he did is completely debunk and deny and put into the ground the narrative that has been pushed by the opposition, especially by Rahul Gandhi, that the Indian Air Force's hands were tied. The Indian Air Force Chief, who is a tough-talking man, a man who has been known to say things that have made the establishment uncomfortable in the past, a man who speaks his mind, has gone on the record to say that basically it is preposterous to suggest that the Indian Air Force's hands were tied. Any restraint shown by the Indian Air Force was part of the tactical planning, the escalatory matrix, where you don't start with all your weapons blazing right at the start. You see what escalation takes place and then you respond accordingly. And 4 days after that, 80 to 90 hours of warfare later, the Pakistan Air Force and the Pakistan military was on its knees practically pleading for a ceasefire. So in that sense, the Indian Air Force Chief has said, has completely debunked the narrative that the government somehow constrained the Indian Air Force into not firing at military targets, etc. The Indian Air Force Chief has completely laid that debate to rest. It remains to be seen whether this will become a point of contention. Parliament is still very much on. The Indian Air Force Chief has now provided receipts and numbers as to how many aircraft his people actually shot down during Operation Sindoor. It remains to be seen whether Parliament will shift, the opposition will shift goalposts once again and train its focus on Indian losses, or whether it will, it will sort of process the fact that the Air Force Chief has publicly debunked Rahul Gandhi and the opposition's claims, and maybe do the right thing and ask the right questions in Parliament of the government as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned, and maybe for a moment take some time out to actually salute and felicitate our air warriors for what they actually achieved.
Well, the fallout of that statement from the Air Chief Marshal has resulted in a political war of words between the political parties, especially the Congress and the BJP. And I have with me Radhika Kheda, the spokesperson of the BJP, as well as Dr. Shama Mohammed, the spokesperson of the Congress. Dr. Shama Mohammed, Mr. Gandhi, he has repeatedly said that India lacked the political will during Operation Sindoor. But the Air Chief Marshal, he has said the opposite. Was the opposition misleading the public? Because this is what your opposition is saying, the BJP is saying. And the big question at this point is, will you now revise your position?
Yeah, but there's nothing to revise in our position. Nobody has said anything against the army, first and foremost. Now, the question today arises is, why did the Air Chief Marshal come out today? He should have said that long back. Why is it that he comes out all of a sudden today and tells? He should have told us this. We are very proud of the army. We are very proud of the Air Force, and kudos to them. But let's understand, the CDS says in a Bloomberg interview, exact words of his, he said that tactical mistakes made by the military during the initial stages has been remedied. So there were some mistakes. Then the defense attaché in Indonesia, Shiv Kumar, says that our hands were tied. We were told not to attack the military and defense bases of Pakistan. So it is not the Congress party who said this. It is the Air Force, it is the defense attaché, it is the CDS. And so that is what we are trying to say. We had nothing else to say other than these points. We always stood with the army. It was Rahul Gandhi who came out first and said he stands with the Prime Minister, he stands with the country, and supported Operation Sindoor. But it is the Prime Minister of India and the Bharatiya Janata Party who was not being honest, who was not telling what was exactly happening. So there is nothing we need to talk about in this stage. The question you need to ask today is, why didn't the Air Chief Marshal come out early? Why did the CDS speak what he spoke in the Bloomberg interview? Why did the defense attaché in Indonesia say that our hands were tied? So why are you always coming after Rahul Gandhi? Do you have an agenda here on NDTV? Or is your chief or CEO after the door to Rahul Gandhi? Well, I can only say there's nothing else other than this. Because Rahul Gandhi stands always with the country and has always stood with the country and will always, as opposition, we have right to ask questions, just like the Republicans as well as the Democrats asked Trump about his action in Iran. So that's what happens in a democracy. One asks questions.
Okay, Radhika Kheda, do respond to that. And this is an important point that Dr. Shama Mohammed has raised. The CDS saying that there were tactical mistakes, the defense attaché making those statements. When you listen to those statements and then suddenly the Air Chief Marshal comes out and clarifies all of that, does the government, does the BJP also accept some responsibility for not communicating these facts sooner?
Good evening to everyone, and I wish everyone a very happy Raksha Bandhan. And it is very unfortunate, but what else do we expect from a Congress spokesperson, the spokesperson of the leader, who himself goes on to insult our army, जो ये कहते हैं कि हमारी army fit क्या है, the spokesperson of that party again here insulted our brave Air Force men and said, why did he not say this before? Bhai, he is not the Air Force chief only to satisfy the questions and quizzes of Rahul Gandhi and his spokesperson. He is here to protect the country, which he was doing, and he did it extremely well. Now, tonight, as we confront a narrative, Osama, that crumbles under the weight of facts, clarity, and sheer patriotic conviction, Rahul Gandhi, the forever on oath challenger, stood up in Parliament and in court of public opinion, he claimed that our pilots entered Operation Sindoor with their hands tied. He insinuated that our fighter jets were failing and even invoked a vague assertion by President Trump that 5 jets being shot down were India's jets. Now, his rallying cry that Modi ji, what is the truth? The country deserves to know. He even demanded that Prime Minister summon the courage of Indira Gandhi, the same woman who ended up putting emergency on the country. We should have the courage of Indira Gandhi and call Trump a liar, unless Rahul Gandhi will believe that our planes were lost and our political stand was compromised. Now enter our Air Chief Marshal, our resolute hero, our rock-solid projector. With clarity and conviction, today he dismantled every whisper of doubt. 5 Pakistani jets and an AEW and C aircraft were confirmed shot down. This is the largest ever recorded surface-to-air kill during the operation. He made it crystal clear that there was no external constraint, no interference, no hands tied the same way that they were after 26/11. Full freedom to plan and execute. Strategic political will and precise execution were 2 pillars of the success of Operation Sindoor. He even further addressed the lingering ghost of Balakot, our early operation that suffered from doubt at our own house. Imagine an army chief had to say that we could not convince our own people of the damage that we had inflicted. Those men and those people who lose their lives, give up their lives for our country, had to stand in front of the nation and say that we could not convince the people of the damage we had caused. He also referred to the intelligence and damage that was achieved because of all this. Now, although all these things have come to light with satellite imagery, media reports, operational transparency, everything has been clear. So tonight, Osama, as you asked, whether the IAF chief deflated Rahul Gandhi's narrative, unequivocally, yes. In one stroke, he ended the haze of speculation. He reaffirmed that India's resolve was never hampered and that Air Force was unleashed and our strategy was decisive and discreet. It's a triumph. Let me complete 30 seconds. It's a triumph of truth over theatrics, bravery over the
all right.
The IAF chief
have to make people
not just responded. He was a surgical strike against Rahul Gandhi's falsehood in Parliament.
Radhika Kheda, we got your point. Shama Mohammed, do respond to that because the Air Chief Marshal, he has said that the political will was the reason for this success. What the BJP is alleging and is questioning is that are you now ready to say publicly that the Modi government gave the forces a free hand? Because Mr. Gandhi had been making that statement that, look, their hands were tied.
Rajnath Singh should come and talk about this in Parliament. Question is, why did he not say this earlier on? Number 2, if he was so ahead, we should have flattened all the terrorist camps there. We should have gone ahead. Why the ceasefire? What happened to the 56-inch ki chati? Why did we go for the ceasefire? They keep saying DGMO of Pakistan came, Americans told them, whatever. We shouldn't have gone ahead. Why? We listened to the DGMO of Pakistan who goes for a ceasefire. That is what India is spineless. That's what we... See, when we were in power, it was said and done. We divided, Pakistan into 2. So you cannot even think about that. I mean, Modi cannot think about it in his 10 lives. I mean, my thing today is, like the Air Marshal said, we were ahead. We downed the aircraft, hats off. Then finish those parts. They are the ones who talk about POK, we are going to capture it. What does Amit Shah say morning, noon and night? We will capture
using like your leader does in Parliament.
No. I'll give you the chance to respond. Radhika Kheda. Please go ahead, Shama Mohammed. Please go ahead.
Today is, why the ceasefire? Why didn't Rajnath Singh not say this in Parliament? We all debated Operation Sindoor in Parliament? Why didn't the Prime Minister not say? Why didn't Amit Shah not say? Why was this kept as a secret when Operation Sindoor debate was happening? And I'm telling you why the ceasefire. None of us wanted the ceasefire. We should have gone.
Okay, Radhika Khera, very quickly respond to what Shama Mohammed is saying, because she's saying that, look, the Raksha Mantri, the Defence Minister, he should have put out these facts when the debate was happening in the Parliament. Why didn't he do that?
Osama ji, I refuse to respond to an anti-national Congress spokesperson who calls India spineless on NDTV. You should have immediately thrown her out from the debate. A Congress spokesperson on your channel has called India spineless.
Modi is a spineless Prime Minister who should
This is the reason why the Congress is not speaking between Osama ji. Kindly mute this anti-national lady. I request you to kindly mute this anti-national lady on the show today.
Radhika Khera, please make your point. Shama Mohammed, we have given you the time to respond. We have given you the time to speak. We have given you the time. We have given you the time to speak. Radhika Khera, please make your point very quickly, ma'am. Radhika Khera, please make your point.
I refuse to share space for an anti-national Congress spokesperson. She is an anti-national lady who first mocked our hero, our cricket captain, and today she has called India spineless. Madam, it is you who is spineless.
I said Modi is spineless. You're a joker. You know, Radhika, you should stay at home.
I refuse.
You're a
joker. Are you okay with debating with a woman who calls India spineless? Are you okay with that, Mr. Osama?
I have to leave
this debate is going nowhere. Radhika Khera and Dr. Shama Mohammed, thank you very much for sharing your views. The Air Chief Marshal, he has he has admitted that forces couldn't convince their own people, and this is something that we are witnessing at this point of time in some different capacity as well. Two political parties fighting it out here, and there is going to be a debate, further debate in the Parliament as well, and we'll have to wait and watch how things unfold there. Time for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.
India, home to 140 crore people, is growing rapidly. As the world's third largest energy consumer, its focus is now on energy security with sustainability at its core. Join Green Rev 2025 on NDTV, where leaders such as Nitin Gadkari, Ram Mohan Naidu, Prahlad Joshi
unveil how biofuels, green hydrogen and rural innovation will fuel India's net zero future.
Join the revolution.
The big NDTV news break. Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh confirms that the Indian Air Force hit 6 Pakistani jets during Operation Sindoor. This is the first formal confirmation of the jets shot down by India. A political war of words erupts. The Air Chief Marshal, he says that he couldn't convince our own, and the BJP says that Congress mocked the armed forces, and will Rahul Gandhi now apologize? The Nabanno Abhiyan rally, 1 year off Kolkata horror. The protesters clashed with cops. The protesters were lathi charged then, and the Ajipur victim's mother was injured. Sharad Pawar backs Rahul Gandhi on the vote theft. Rao Pawar seeks a probe. He says Election Commission must answer.
Presented by Canara Bank. Together we can.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
हेलो बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा।
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसे हल्का सा भी खौफ नहीं है।
मैडम एक बात को खौफ किस लिए रखना चाहिए तो बताओ, कौन सा गलत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं?
After our report, we also saw NSE came out with a cautionary circular to the investors. Market Regulator Securities and Exchange Board of India has also come out with a release talking about the actions that it has taken. Cyber complaint has also been filed against the entities involved in this entire Dabba trading scam.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools and lead with impact. Starts August the 23rd. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Good evening and welcome. The big story that we've been tracking through the day, startling revelation by the Chief of the Indian Air Force, Air Chief Marshal AP Singh, where for the first time he's come out with detailed statements where he says that during Operation Sindoor, 6 Pakistani aircraft were shot down by the Indian Air Force, besides which there were aircraft which were targeted on the ground as well, which were destroyed inside hangars. We're going to be bringing you all of those details. It's taken a few months, but the Indian Air Force Chief, in a talk in Bengaluru today, has come out with some of the most startling details on the success of India's operations during Operation Sindoor. This is evidence that the Indian Air Force says is absolutely clear. Not 1 or 2, but 6 Pakistani aircraft, including an AWACS aircraft, knocked out on the sky. But what we can do right now is actually talk a little bit, and we're going to be playing out what the Air Chief said in just a moment from now. But before that, let's have the pictures on your screen. F-16 aircraft, that's been the mainstay of the Pakistan Air Force for an extended period of time. It is believed that some F-16 aircraft were knocked out in Jacobabad on the ground. Whether any of these were intercepted in the air by S-400 surface-to-air missile systems, we do not know. Let's bring you images, other images as well. Let's go through all of the fighter aircraft. This is perhaps the most significant one today. This is a Saab Eri. This is one of the most advanced radar warning aircraft that the Pakistanis operate. It is the most advanced. They operate a less advanced Chinese variant as well. And what the Indian Air Force Chief did say is that at a range of 300 kilometers, which would be a record, one of those Eris was intercepted by this system. This is the S-400 surface-to-air missile system. It has a range of up to 400 kilometers. The S-400 was used to fire its missiles up to a range of approximately 300 kilometers in this case, and it is believed that a Pakistani AWACS or an intelligence gathering aircraft, a large platform, was actually knocked out. So there were 6 planes which were knocked out. Some of those could have been jets like this, the Mirage 3 and the Mirage 5, or very significantly, the J-10 which the Pakistanis use. This is their frontline aircraft, possibly the F-16 itself, though he did talk about F-16 losses on the ground. These are some of the frontline aircraft that the Pakistanis operate. We do not know which aircraft were knocked down, but it was the S-400 surface-to-air missile system which did knock out all of the aircraft that I've mentioned. Now, the Air Force Chief has come out with these details at a time and place of his choosing. He's done it several months after Operation Sindoor, the military action over there, actually ended. But let's also talk a little bit about the ground strikes which did take place, because there is new footage which has now emerged as well. This is actually from a loitering drone, and you can see the target over here. This is of the Arifwala radar. You can also see images over here of before and after the attack, before attacking over here and an after attack right below. And the Indian Air Force says that this radar head was damaged. This is new evidence coming in of the extent of the Indian Air Force strikes. Let's move to the next couple of images that we see. This is the Chunia radar. Again, this radar has been damaged. It's blackened out in the top, so that's been damaged as well. The next image that you're going to see on your screen is of the Noor Khan Air Force Base in Chaklala. We've spoken about this in the past, but this used to be a command and control center over here where drone operations used to be guided. The next image that you see, and these are now getting quite significant, is the UAV hub in Sukkur, and this is actually the Rahim Yar Khan Pakistan Air Force Base. Many areas were struck over here. Let's go to the next image. The next image here, this is Bholari, the most startling image. This is the entire Bholari Air Base. And the Indian Air Force Chief today said that not only was an AWACS platform of Pakistan struck in the air, it was likely struck in this particular hangar. Now let's give you a couple of detailed images of this hangar, because let's go back to the previous page, please. This is really, really significant because this is what the hangar looked like before the attack took place, and this is what it looked like post the attack taking place. It is believed, according to the Air Force chief, that there was a Pakistani radar aircraft, an AWACS aircraft, which actually went in over here. It taxied into this, and let's fix the focus on this particular shot. Went in over here, and it was destroyed by an Indian attack. Let's go through the next couple of images as well. This is Jacobabad. This is particularly significant. It is over here that it is believed that F-16s under maintenance were destroyed by the Indian Air Force. A massive hit, this as important and as impressive as the Bholari image which we saw earlier on. So let's go again to the other couple of images. This is Sukur. It's a UAV hub. There was a radar installation which was struck, but perhaps more importantly, this area which has been flattened is where there was a hangar for drones, large drones presumably of the Pakistan Air Force, which was taken out. So the Air Force chief talking about a lot of these targets. But what we can do at this stage is listen in to what the Air Force chief, Air Chief Marshal AP Singh has had to say.
The SAGW systems, mostly from, I'm talking about fighter aircraft are from S-400. We have at least 5 fighters confirmed kills and 1 large aircraft, which could be either an Elint aircraft or an AWNC aircraft, which was taken out at a distance of about 300 kilometers. This is the actually largest ever recorded surface-to-air kill that we can talk about. And apart from, of course, this, there are a large number of UAVs, drones. There are some of their missiles which have fallen in our territory. We have recovered a lot of wreckage from this, which now is being studied so that we can make out what did they do, where were they launched from, what route did they follow, what kind of system do they have, whether they have, what I mean to say, what generation those systems belong to, what all features do they have. So that study is going on, and it is going on even in coordination with DRDO. There was very clear political will, very clear directions which were given to us, and there were no kind of restrictions which were put on it. There have been talks about, was there any restriction, were you kept constrained? If there were any constraints, they were self-made. We, the forces, decided what will be our rules of engagement. We, the forces, decided what will be the escalation ladder that we want to ride on. We decided how we want to control the escalation. So I want to make it very clear, there were no, I repeat, no restrictions on us. Full freedom was given to us to plan and execute. I must say that, that our attacks have been calibrated because we wanted to be mature about it. A little bit on that I'll come to later. There was synchronization between forces. All 4 of us, CDS, the 3 chiefs. I must say here that the post of CDS has made a difference there. He was there always to get us together, discuss things out, iron things out. NSA played a very, very big role, in getting all the other agencies and forces together.
I'm joined now by my colleague Shiv Arur, also by Air Marshal Anil Khosla, Angad Singh, a defense expert, very well known as an air power expert, Group Captain Ajay Ahlawat, and Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. Shiv, let me come to you first. That last statement by the Air Force Chief which we saw, where he said that there was no restraint, he did things the way he wanted. How significant is that remark in the context of what we've seen recently in Parliament?
Well, given that the Indian Air Force Chief is a man who is well known to call a spade, he has frequently disturbed and upset the status quo. He has, quite often and in our recent memory, rubbed the system and establishment the wrong way. I would believe what he says. This is a man who has demonstrated that he doesn't really care about ecosystems and troll armies and narratives and things like that. And this sounded to me very much like a soldier calling it out. He was quite rueful about having to convince our own people. He spoke very much like a man in blue. He was talking about how having to convince our own people was something that occupied the Air Force's time in the past. He was talking about Balakot. And this time he talked about, no matter what people seem to be suggesting, and he very sort of ruefully said everyone seems to have an opinion. But it seemed like it was the right time for him to come out and say this entire suggestion that his hands were tied or the Air Force's hands were tied was ridiculous, that there was a tactical framework in which the Air Force was acting. No Air Force, certainly not the Indian Air Force, is going to go in with all its air power on display from day one itself. Were any aircraft shot down? Sure, this has been suggested in the past as well. You've reported it as well. But as far as the Air Force's actions are concerned, I think he's made it very clear that there was no question of hands being tied, any political restraint. On the contrary, he said there was total political will and freedom of operations given to the Air Force today.
Shiv, there's an interesting tidbit of information which has come in, which we didn't discuss earlier on in the day. Shiv and I have been talking about this all day. Let me bring in Air Marshal Khosla on this to a specific question on whether the Akash surface-to-air missile system or the MRSAM surface-to-air missile system was actually used. Those are also in India's arsenal. The chief actually said that no, it never got down to that because the S-400s knocked down whatever they had to. How significant has the addition of the MRSAM? Let me put that to Air Marshal Anil Khosla. How significant is the addition of the S-400 to the Indian Air Force?
Yeah, Vishnu, Chief, actually I attended the talk in the morning today, and relating to your specific question of what he mentioned was the air defense system, the whole ecosystem of air defense, we call it integrated air defense system, worked very well. The radars as well, all the weapons of different ranges, they worked in very well. And of course, he praised the S-400 as a game changer, and he brought out, like you also covered, that aircraft was shot down by S-500, and a sort of a record of a big aircraft being shot down at almost 300 kilometers. As far as MRSAM and S-4 Akash system is concerned, he mentioned about them also that they performed very well, and they were instrumental in utilizing some of the long-range vectors and which were thrown at us from Pakistan side. So he praised the entire AD system as such, and he made specific mention for Akash and S-400 and MRSAM as well.
Okay. Angad, in terms of what we are now hearing, 6 Pakistani aircraft, including an AWACS platform, knocked down, how does this turn the entire narrative on its head?
I think, Vishnu, it's a welcome piece of information. And I personally think the AWACS skill is the most important. Manned tactical aircraft always suffer in skirmishes like this, and I expect it to do so. So a welcome piece of information, but I still think that I hesitate to use the word irrelevant, but certainly less important in the grand scheme of things, because OCA, offensive counter-air, is still the holy grail of air operations. Neutralizing enemy air power on the ground before you even have to face it in the air. That's the holy grail of air power, of the application of air power. And the Indian Air Force has already comprehensively demonstrated that in May, and dominated the OCA landscape, hitting all its targets, all the bases that the Air Chief mentioned, while Pakistan was unable to hit a single target on our side of the border.
In fact, Air Marshal Khosla, let's talk a little bit about that offensive air power. Where the Indian Air Force took out not just hangars and in the process destroyed aircraft to the ground, but also for the first time we are seeing some new images of strikes on radar installations. There were several, and let's have the images up on our screen. How significant would those be?
Yeah, so Vishnu, like Chief brought out and he summed it up that almost 6 radars, big and small, were attacked, 2 command and control centers were attacked, 3 hangars were attacked, 2 runways were attacked. So, and he said all the airfields were attacked from north, south, east to west. And what he mentioned was, which is rightly we also discussed earlier, that the message was very, very clear. And it was not that one airfield was decimated totally and all the target systems, which I call it, on the airfield were destroyed on one particular airfield. Here the message was very clear that we are attacking all your airfields. We can hit you wherever you are. Number 2, by attacking different types of targets at different places, from hangars to command and control center, even underground installations, the message was that we can hit every type of target and wherever it is located. And that, I think, message went strength 5. And that's when I think Pakistan realized that, the damage can be extensive. And that's when they called for, halting the operations.
Shiv, why did the Air Chief make these remarks now? Why did he not make them before, let's say, the Parliament session? Shiv, can you hear me? All right, I'll come back to Shiv in a moment, but Group Captain Helawat, how would you look at that, the timing of these remarks?
Well, the timing is significant. Amongst various things the chief said, he essentially said, don't look at the story, look at the message. The message is the story, that we could hit Pakistan across the length and the breadth. The PAF was hiding on the night of 9th and 10th. If this information had come a little bit earlier, it would have made a significant difference to the narrative battle, as Angad said. It is important now, it is very important to people who study air power, but it is less important in the narrative war. This lecture was planned on this date. I mean, Chief would speak at the opportunity given to him. It is my reading that if these things had come out a couple of days earlier, it would have taken up some more time in Parliament when the subject of Operation Sindoor was discussed. But my narrow point before we move on is that all of us have been saying for a while, lie has speed and truth has endurance. So finally, the truth is emerging. We all believed it all along. And after the chief has spoken, I think he'll put the whole debate to rest now.
Shiv, the timing of these remarks, I find that really interesting. This chief appear to be under any pressure whatsoever. He could have said this on day one. He chose not to.
After Operation Sindoor, Vishnu, and I'm sure everyone will agree with me, if you want to ascribe a certain motive to a timing of what is being said, and if you look hard enough, you will be able to ascribe that motive, no matter what that action is. So for the Air Chief, it's a bit of a sitter, isn't it? It's right in the middle of Parliament. He's banged out these specifics as far as how many aircraft were actually killed. This has happened right after the Operation Sindoor debate, and therefore there are all these aspects which can be used to suggest that there is a specificity beyond just the LM Katre memorial lecture to which the Air Force chief is responding to. I don't think so. I think the Air Force must have its not having put this in.
Shiv, we are losing your line. I'll come back to you in a moment. Let me go across to General Rakesh Sharma. General, we keep talking about this narrative war. That's all very well. That's how things play out on social media now. People decide winners and losers on social media, messages. Some are fabricated, some are not fabricated. But in terms of the actual war fighting, because this was a war, I mean, if you were hitting targets 100 kilometers in Pakistani Punjab, then it is a war. Simple as that. Yeah. At the end of the day, forget the narrative. India won Operation Sindoor. That's the key message, right?
Thank you, Vishnu, for inviting me. And yes, you're right. It's a key message that we had the power to do what we wanted to do in the air as also on the ground, which was proven in these 88 hours or something. What has come out today is something to be proud of, and proud of the Air Force of what they have achieved. Having said that, the issue that you raised about narrative. See, there are narratives. Narratives are lies and truths and half-truths. But this is a truth. This is a truth which is known to us from the day one. If we launched 6 S-400 missiles, we knew we launched a missile. If the missile was a dud, it would have fallen down on the ground. If it had not hit a target, it would have fallen down on the ground, and the Pakis would have made immense amount of noise, like we made a noise about finding a PL-15 near Batinda or somewhere like that. So Pakistani did make a noise that we found a missile, which means obviously the missiles found their target, hit the enemy aircraft, and aircraft would have gone down. And naturally, there's no narrative involved here. This was a truth that needs to be said. Now, like most countries in the world, the Air Forces also rely on RNAW or their CIA or other agencies to get the confirmed kill. When they get confirmed kill, they actually say that this has been this is the truth. But on day one, they start saying that something has been achieved. President Trump came up and said, okay, we fired GBU-57s, we hit the pinpoint targets and hit it. But the US Air Force did not make a mention as what has been hit. In all questions being asked from the combined chief, they said, okay, look, we will hold the horses till the time the CIA says that they have been hit. We may have been waiting for an RNW confirmation that may have taken 3 months now to confirm, yes, they have been hit. And
no, I asked the Americans this question. I filed a Freedom of Information Act. It's a legal process in the United States. They didn't deny it. They directed me to another agency. I sent 2 emails, with the second one being a reminder to those agencies. They didn't come back. So there was no denial. And I find that interesting. Angad, would you like to comment on this? Unlike in the case of Balakot, where the Americans actually did, through a journalist in fact, come out with a report saying that no, all the Pakistani F-16s were intact. Nothing of that sort has happened here.
That's exactly right. Vishnu, I think I think anyone trying to do a full accounting of Pakistani air assets at this point will come up short. Whether they were destroyed on the air, in the air or on the ground, is immaterial. That they have lost hardware in this skirmish, and frankly, kill verification takes time in some cases, particularly in this one. I know General Sharma mentioned that if the missile is launched and you've seen the blip disappear on your scope and you don't find the wreckage of the missile, it's a good bet that the target's been destroyed, but you still want to go a step further. And historically, the Indian Air Force has always had fairly high standards for issuing kill claims. There are a lot of pilots in past wars who were not given credit for kills. You interviewed one of them, Flight Lieutenant Alfred Cook from 65. And Balakot was similar. You and I were both at that event where they showed us the Pakistani aircraft disappearing from the radar scope and the ESM pickup disappearing. Look, every Air Force, every country will have different standards for declaring a kill, and ours tend to be fairly tight, and some other countries, such as Pakistan, tend to be fairly loose. And so that's probably why it's just taken 3 months for us to formally issue these claims, even though, again, as General Sharma said, they've been floating around since May.
Let's cue up that picture of Balakot. If my director can just cue up that picture of Balakot and keep it ready, I'll come to that. In fact, it's there, right on the screen. And I wanted to ask that question on this to Air Marshal Khosla. The image on the left is an image which I had actually found. I had located among the satellite imagery which I was going through. And I had passed it on to those, in the loop. And then they passed, and it was with the Air Force. And the Air Force had consistently argued that, no, Vishnu, this is great because this is actually evidence of the penetration of Spice 2000 weapons, right? But then nobody seemed to buy that. Today, the Air Force chief said that in 2019, we had a problem. Nobody accepted what we were saying, but we had a lot of evidence, including human intelligence, to show that we hit that Pakistani site. The image on the right is also an image which was released today. That is the Muridke. Let's have that up full screen, please. And that image is actually interesting. Let's have it full screen, please. That image is interesting because it actually shows a single dot right inside the roof or on the roof. And the one on the left, which is Balakot in 2019, it has those 3 dots as well. If you look at it, you'd need to look 10 times before knowing what exactly it is. But the point the Air Force chief was mentioning is that in the case of penetrator weapons, you don't blow up the entire thing. So Air Marshal Khosla, this is interesting. We have other pictures of Muridke, so we know we hit. In the case of Balakot in 2019, we didn't have those. But this is how weapon systems operate. It's not necessarily a big bang as people expect.
Yeah, Vishnu, you brought a very valid point, and Air Chief also mentioned, the ghost of Balakot has been laid to rest. And we knew exactly in the whole camp, at that time, Jaish-e-Mohammed camp on Jabba Top, each building we knew what it houses, where are the 300 trained terrorists are residing, where the trainers are residing, where is the top lot when they come, which is the visiting room where they stay. All those details we knew, and accordingly the targets were selected, and we knew exactly how many weapons are being targeted at which building. And this picture which you are bringing out very rightly, the weapon it's a very, very small hole. It just goes, penetrates, and then depending on the effect, what you need, you select that weapon. And this weapon penetrates, making a small hole and then causes a devastating effect inside, which has been proven in Operation Sindoor also. Unfortunately for us, we didn't have the satellite pictures during the Balakot because of the clouding which came up. And second unfortunate part, not unfortunate, it is a reality because we chose a target which was on a hilltop and the Pakistan civilian population was not allowed there. Like in Operation Sindoor, we got a lot of information from the videos from Pakistan itself. As far as the internal damage is concerned, people going inside these buildings and giving you videos, which were not available during Balakot.
Marshal, let me ask you this question. I don't for a moment doubt what the chief has said. He said it, it's on record, it's his credibility, and so I'm not questioning that. But there will be those people who say that where's the evidence of all of these skills? How would anybody respond to that?
No, you're talking about Balakot.
I'm talking about now.
Yeah. So, as I said, Chief also mentioned that we have the satellite pictures, we have the videos from the weapons which went in, some of them, and also we have the satellite pictures of before and after. And also, most of the claims which have been there, the ground videos which have come out in the social media are indicating...
No, sir, I'm talking about air-to-air kills.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. I mistook it from the air-to-ground.
No. So air-to-grounds are sorted, sir. He didn't need to even touch upon that topic if he didn't want to.
So air-to-air kill, I mean, he didn't elaborate rightfully, the exact details that who took on what and what happened and which weapon took on which aircraft and how many aircraft the Chinese made or the otherwise were shot down. All those details were not given and not rightly speaking, not needed also to my mind. Yeah, so now actually this is the first time I think Air Chief has spoken. So now this debate will open up and like in Balakot, it will go in different directions in the next few days. And so far we are just... reporting on Indian media, and very soon, next, I think 2 weeks, the social media as well as the foreign news channels will jump in and this topic is going to go in different directions. That's what I am expecting.
We also, in terms of evidence, do have missile tracks. Each of the missiles which were released by an S-400 would have a certain track. That track would be recorded, and that's the evidence which we have. You would see a target and the target would disappear, and that's the evidence which clearly the Indian Air Force is relying on, right?
Yeah, plus digital signatures of the clips which are there. In the integrated network now, when you're sitting in the ops room, it gives you a certain, gives you whatever the degree of percentage of the accuracy, but it gives you a digital imprint also that this is expected to be this particular aircraft. That also is there. So digital footprints are also available.
Okay. Angad, let me come to you next. China operates the S-400. India operates the S-400. China was helping Pakistan all along. Evidently, that help wasn't good enough to prevent the loss of their aircraft to Indian S-400s. Your thoughts?
Vishnu, we are all victims of physics. Some things you can't defend against. If I can see you, I can shoot you. It's that simple.
Okay. No, but keep talking, Angad. Don't restrict yourself to one answer.
Well, I mean, you have this surveillance radar, you have the engagement radar, you can look out to 400, 500 kilometers with the S-400 system, and you have these missiles that can reach out publicly known ranges are in excess of 300 kilometers. Obviously, the Pakistan Air Force is playing it safe. We saw that again, both in the air, on the ground, keeping at a distance after the 7th night, 8th morning. They essentially kept at a distance in the air, a distance that they hoped was sufficient. And it didn't work. They obviously miscalculated, and the S-400s found their mark 6 times as per the air chief. And as did the air-to-surface missiles that were launched in the following 48 hours.
Group Captain Alawat, let's talk a little bit about some of the other systems which were used by the Indian Air Force. Obviously, it's not just a missile, but it's the entire radar setup of the Indian Air Force. Whether it was, and it's networked to a large extent. We had a good idea of the air picture on the other side of the international boundary. How did that play a key part? The fact that we've got something called the IACCS, it's data linked and network, a system of sensors, which actually enables our warfighters on the ground to know what the aerial threat is. How is this a key part of operations?
Well, the IACCS works something like, eyes and ears. You get to see something, and through your ESM sensor, you get to hear something. And that information is conveyed to your hands, which form a punch and, deliver those effects. So all the network sensors played a key role from the smallest to the biggest Even civilian radars are interlinked, or they share information with the IACCS. With the Akash Tir that integrates army radars, feeding information to IACCS, it became all the more potent. So we could see, almost everything that went up in the air. We could target things that we wanted to target. And the situational awareness in the ops room was far, far better this time.
Let's just listen into what the Air Force Chief had to say about the use of the Russian S-400 missile system. Let's take a look.
Their aircraft tried to penetrate our defenses. Our air defense systems have done a wonderful job. The S-400 system, which we had recently bought, has been a game changer. The range of that system has really kept their aircraft away from their weapons like, those long-range glide bombs that they have. They've not been able to use any one of those because they've not been able to penetrate this system.
Air Marshal Khosla, let's talk a little bit more about the S-400. It's interesting, the S-400 is a system the Americans were most concerned about when there were conversations on whether India could buy fighter aircraft from America. The Americans, in the case of the F-35, which is a stealth platform, said nothing doing if you have the S-400. Now, we aren't necessarily buying the F-35 at all, but the fact of the matter is that the system that the Americans are so concerned about has done brilliantly well in this particular conflict.
Yeah, you're right. S-400, has done really well, and you're right about this thing. Even Turkey, their NATO partner, they didn't give them A-35 because they bought S-400. And when we bought S-400, it's like buying a multiple umbrella and with a longer range and multiple umbrellas, multiple capability radars as well as weapon system in one. And it's part of the integrated air defense system. And when we bought it, we took into consideration the entire requirement of the AD, and we reduced some other systems because of the system was so capable. And it is quite a capable system, and it takes on variety of targets and different ranges and different for radar pickup as well as for tracking and for missile. And it has proven its worth. And the best part is, when you deploy these systems, the enemy automatically gets pushed back. So, like Chief also brought out, and very rightly, in Balakot, they could manage to put some glide bombs on our military targets, which are about 80-kilometer range. But this time they couldn't do it because they were pushed back because of the S-400. So it's a deterrence in itself. And having said that, also these systems become the prime target during the these wars and these conflicts, because you want to blind the enemy as well as you want to attack the air defense system to create gaps also. So they become a they become a target themselves also. Like we did we destroyed 2 of their SAGW systems in Lahore and one more place.
Group Captain Alawat, there's a lot to be said, would you not agree, sir, about the importance of India's strategic autonomy? I mean, it's all very well for America to say they continue to import Russian weapons, but heck, they work for us. It's unbelievably well how it's worked. So we will pick and choose what we want from wherever we want it, with obviously the priority being that we make it in India and we get our own technologies up. But that strategic autonomy as a basic policy served us well.
Obviously, see, if we still nurse the desire to be a regional power or global power, eventually we will have to start producing stuff at home. But till we get there, we will have to import. Imports are necessary evil. And where we buy stuff from depends on what we need. We buy equipment from United States, we buy equipment from Israel, we buy equipment from Russia. Obviously, we'll pick equipment that fits our needs. So yeah, you can call it autonomy, but you could also call a deficiency in our own homegrown systems. Look at LCA. First flight 2001, and in 2025, exactly, right. Even the first 40 are not delivered.
I just wanted to go back to General Sharma in a second from now, but first let's listen in to what the Air Force Chief had to say about that interesting conversation between the Pakistani Director General of Military Operations and our DGMO. Let's listen in.
I can say that it was, more of a high-tech war which was fought in about 88, 90 hours of war, we were able to achieve, so much of damage to their system that it was very clear in their mind that in this current situation, if they continue, they are going to continue paying for it more and more. So they have come forward and sent a message again through DGMO कि हम बात करना चाहते हैं, and which was accepted from our side.
That is, General Sharma, the bottom line. It was they decided to, cut down hostilities. There's no Trump involvement or anything over here. It was their DGMO, the same DGMO who, 80 hours earlier, had told our DGMO that, no, sorry, we're going to hit you really hard. That same gentleman came back and said, no, we've had enough. That's what Operation Sindoor ultimately boiled down to, right?
Okay, allow me to make 2-3 points before I answer your question. One is that it was an ground to air missiles which were fired, no air to air, which, as the air chief said, which is S-400, which created the envelope of 300 plus kilometers, exactly like what we thought PL-15 did for us on the first night, where they created a larger envelope for their own air defense. Now, having said that, there is also issue of authentication. Even if we had announced it on the first day that we had 5 and 6 kills done, and we are still authenticating it, that would have been sufficient of a message being conveyed that we have had air kills in addition to the ground kills which were done by the missiles on BrahMos. Two of these most success stories in this entire Operation Sindoor is one is the BrahMos, which is also a Russian origin missile. And of course, now we talk about S-400, which are also Russian origin missiles that have actually been the game changers in the entire Operation Sindoor, and we must recognize it. Now, to answer your basic question about President Trump, well, I would say certainly that there was no brokering of peace. We won't say that Nawaz Sharif's visit to in Kargil times was brokering of peace when he visited President Clinton, if you recollect, on 4th of July, or subsequently when Musharraf's hands were twisted and Musharraf made a statement in Op Prakram that I will not do any terrorism. Here also there was no brokering, but the Americans did try some kind of facilitation with all the conversations that happened with Marco Rubio, or the conversation that happened with Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance. Finally, it had to be the peace had to be brought about only by the DGMO, Pakistan DGMO, having accepted that the damages being caused by the Indian Air Force to Pakistan is so credible and so large that the peace will be the only answer. So the type of facilitation that Americans were trying for 3 days wasn't exactly so successful. Mm-hmm. It was mutually between us.
All right, let's listen in also to another aspect of this. This is the political remarks obviously made by Rahul Gandhi in Parliament, saying that the hands of the Indian Air Force were tied. And here's how the Indian Air Force chief responded today.
Meaning you went into Pakistan, you attacked Pakistan, and you told our pilots, do not attack their air defense system. Meaning you told our pilots, go and attack and face the air defense system of Pakistan. Meaning you tied their hands behind their back. Because he has the blood of the people of Pahalgam on his hands, the goal of the exercise was to make sure that he used the Air Force to protect his image. The forces should be used with freedom. If you want them to be used, you want to unleash a tiger, free him. Do not tie his hands behind his back. Do not go to the Pakistanis and say, listen, don't escalate. Then go all the way. Then fight properly and defeat them once and for all.
Our objective was very clear. Our objective was to teach the terrorists a lesson that they will think twice before doing something, or they know what kind of price they can pay. And once we have achieved those objectives, we should look for all windows of opportunity to stop that, rather than just continuing. We were actually on a song that night. I hear from so many people. I don't want to say that, but some people very close to me have said, "Aur marna tha." I'm telling you that. But can we continue to be at war? No. Why should we be at war when we can avoid it or we can stop it. Now we have to make sure that we remain steadfast that should we need to again do something, we are not found wanting. But what to do, that call will be taken at much higher level.
पहले 100% पॉलिटिकल विल होनी चाहिए और दूसरा, अगर आप सेना का प्रयोग करना चाहते हो तो आपको फुल फ्रीडम ऑफ ऑपरेशन देना पड़ेगा। जनरल मानेकशॉ ने इंदिरा गांधी जी से कहा कि मैं ऑपरेशन गर्मी में नहीं कर सकता हूं, नहीं करूंगा, मुझे 6 महीने चाहिए। इंदिरा गांधी जी ने उन्हें कहा आपको 6 महीने चाहिए, 1 साल चाहिए, जितना भी आपको समय चाहिए आप लीजिए, क्योंकि आपको फ्रीडम होनी चाहिए, फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्शन आपको होना चाहिए।
But there was political will. I'm being very, very candid here, very open here, because I hear various versions of it. I think if I tell you something, people will have to believe, because I was there listening to everybody, attending every meeting. There was very clear political will, very clear directions which were given to us, and there were no kind of restrictions which were put on it. If there were any constraints, they were self-made. We, the forces, decided what will be our rules of engagement. We, the forces, decided what will be the escalation ladder that we want to ride on. We decided how we want to control the escalation. So I want to make it very clear, there were no, I repeat, no restrictions on us. Full freedom was given to us to plan and execute.
Air Marshal Khosla, let me come back to you, sir. The escalation matrix itself was fairly tricky. What the Indian Air Force Chief felt obliged to actually do was go up that escalation matrix substantially. They came in with drones, right? We responded with drones, but then when they decided to send in even more drones, we hit them very, very hard. That comes with risks, but it also comes with courage and a firm idea of what the enemy is thinking or may do. How would these decisions be very difficult to take?
Yeah, so this decision is a collective decision of the hierarchy, and keeping various factors in mind. I mean, I don't want to go into full detail of it, but this is an important decision. And if you see in Operation Sindoor also, that 88 hours, 3 phases when you change it, analyze it into, we kept giving a window open for the Pakistan to stop the activities, but they kept escalating. And finally a time came when we realized that they're not taking that opportunity of that window which we are providing, and they are continuing to increase, and something needs to be done at a much bigger level to make them realize. And that is when the phase 3 happened, where the attacks on the airfield came up. Vishnu, if you give me 1 minute, what we heard Chief saying, and we discussed about Trump and this thing, I just want to bring in perspective, a much broader perspective. India has been following this policy of strategy of punitive deterrence as far as terrorism is concerned. Uri was, rap on the knuckle, so Balakot was, slap on the face, the Operation Sindoor was, punch on the nose. Correct? So it is evolving. Now, will this, in the long run, prevent Pakistan from following its policy of bleed India by 1,000 cuts in terrorism? That is the broader question. Why I'm bringing out this is, we mentioned Trump. Now, Trump with the tariff warfare, and plus, warming up to Pakistan now, with having lunch with Asim Munir and, giving anti-India statements about oil refineries and whatnot. The Pakistan is getting encouraged. Asim Munir is already making statements. The next time we'll start from the east and things like that. So broader question is, what happens next? Will it prevent them from in future or not? That is a bigger question.
General Sharma, I think the Air Marshal has a key point that, Operation Sindoor we may have done really well, but it's not the end of, it's not likely to be the end of terrorism at all.
Two issues here. See, the ballistic missiles in larger way did not come into play. And we must not discount that Pakistan has got a large number of ballistic missiles, ranges up to 1,500 kilometers, and we too have it. So the war that was fought was in kind of proximity to the international border, and it was within 300 kilometers of each other, or at least that was the gap between them, and that's what we hit also. So the possibility of escalation going to Shaheen series or Ababil series or Gauri series or Ghazni series exists. We too have that kind of prowess to fire against them, and it could have escalated. It did not do so, but that the wherewithal exists on both sides to escalate, even in this manner of air warfare. So that's the one part of the story. The other issue that you are raising rightly is that there is a, whether it is a further escalation. And your question, I think, was related to escalation, was it, Vishnu? Yeah. So, see, how does it happen in matters of terrorism? Over a period of last 30 years, we know the Pakistani controls the tap of the terrorism. Sometimes it's allowed to escalate to a level where it brings it to a boil, and many other times for a couple of years they bring it down. It relates to their internal situation inside Pakistan, where it is necessary that to bind their own country, they have to create the J&K bogey and the terrorism issue and the people of Kashmir suffering to their own people.
Sure.
So presently, after this time, the tap has been little closed. So the terrorism, what has been happening...
And I think Pakistan would also know, and because our Prime Minister and everybody else have repeated this about 50 times, if you do this to us again, then we are going to hit you back. So I think that's absolutely part of our policy. Now, look, gentlemen, I'm out of time. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. It's been a fairly incredible day. The Air Force Chief coming clear with exactly how many Pakistani aircraft we shot down. There were 6 of them, 6 aircraft shot down. He stated this on record, including an AWACS platform, which is very precious. And of course, Pakistani aircraft, including F-16, likely lost on the ground as well. That's what he's also spoken about. We leave it there. A lot more coming up right here on NDTV 24/7. Shiva Root has a very special interview as well with John Spencer on the remarks made by the Air Chief and the implications. That's up next.
Home to 140 crore people is growing rapidly. As the world's third largest energy consumer, its focus is now on energy security with sustainability at its core. Join Green Rev 2025 on NDTV, where leaders such as Nitin Gadkari, Ram Mohan Naidu, Prahlad Joshi
unveil how biofuels, green hydrogen and rural innovation will fuel India's net zero future.
Join the revolution.
The big NDTV news break. Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh confirms that the Indian Air Force hit 6 Pakistani jets during Operation Sindoor. This is the first formal confirmation of the jets shot down by India. A political war of words erupts. The Air Chief Marshal, he says that he couldn't convince our own, and the BJP says that Congress mocked the armed forces, and will Rahul Gandhi now apologize? The Nabanno Abhiyan rally clashed with cops. The protesters were lathi charged then, and the Ajipur victim's mother was injured. Sharad Pawar backs Rahul Gandhi on the vote theft. Rao Pawar seeks a probe. He says Election Commission must answer.
Presented by Canara Bank. Together we can.
Rajasthan is history, culture, and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture, and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years. Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India, and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years, covering the corridors of power. What is said what is left unsaid, and what it actually means for you and me. I have it all covered.
Kashmir is often called paradise on earth, a region that has been in a state of flux from conflict to India's crowning glory. I have been reporting and decoding Jammu and Kashmir for last 3 decades.
You know, first when Sayyara released and we as audience realized, oh my God, what is happening? You know, when did you realize it? Like, it's like, I didn't expect this, what is happening? Like that wave that hits you.
You know, the first thing that really hit me, I'm telling you, was a month back actually, to be honest, is when Adisa saw the film. And he saw a very loose cut and he decided the release date. But he was always... like me and Akshay were so into making the film, I think, along with Sumanna and all. Sometimes when you're so into it and you don't realize, you don't see it from, and then he saw it from a third person perspective. I mean, he was always super confident about the film. And he had actually had this talk with me about how I've done. And yeah, we all grew up. I was in the 8th grade when I saw Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge and said I want to make a love story like this. For a person like him to say that, you've made a great film. All he had asked for me was to make your best film for me. And I did, and I'm just glad that, so that was the first thing, and that validation was great. I wasn't shouting over the roof for it. It gives you a lot of confidence at that moment,
Absolutely.
for the person who's actually put his money where it is, and he wasn't talking about anything else, but on a very unassembled film at that time, could feel the emotion and be listening. But it was the first time we felt that we made something special. But yes, once the numbers came in, I think then it was Akshay.
The advance.
Yeah, and the advances came in, and then people were sending me messages, and all they said, no, don't listen to anyone. So I at one point just put my phone off and said, this is getting too out of hand. And then in the night we got the number.
And that's why it's being said that after Kaho Na Pyar Hai, this is the film that has got 2 superstar debutants who are becoming superstars. But what was this faith that you had on these 2 that that shows on screen?
You don't.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi marked Raksha Bandhan 2025 today by celebrating the festival at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, his official residence. The occasion brought together women and children from different walks of life who tied Rakis to the Prime Minister as a gesture of love, respect and blessings. Time now for us to take this short break.
NDTV 24/7 is India's #1 English news channel on YouTube. Credible, compelling, always ahead of the curve. Thank you for choosing NDTV 24/7 as your trusted source for news.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
जय जवान
जय जवान
Mohit, you are known for your music. All your films, musics stay with us till today. I'm a millennial and those music are kind of music. So whenever we say Mohit Suri film aa raha hai, we know the music will be good, right? It's a given. So you really work hard. But is this always like how you create your music? You need everything in place, the mood, the lighting, even when the person is in the studio and just singing. And also, how did you select your musicians that this person's voice is perfect for this song?
That's what I think, the amount you give to a song, that's how long it will last, I think. Everyone does the programming, everyone writes the words, everyone makes the thing.